Hi, my name is Will Stromquist. This is my presentation on automotive media. Now, for a short introduction, the coverage through media of anything automotive related, whether it be motorsport, culture, things like that, it's existed since roughly the 1880s, 1890s, around there. Media and car culture, they really do go hand in hand. Without media, anything automotive related would be completely different. In this presentation, I'll be covering various forms of mass media pertaining to the automotive industry and anything related to it. One of the first would be newspaper. Now, this is significant because the first ever race in the world was actually sponsored by a newspaper. This occurred in France in 1894. It was deemed more of a reliability test than anything. Also, the first ever American races involving cars, or at least something you could call a car, here's a good photo from the starting line there, were also sponsored by a newspaper. This happened during 1895. There was a race from Milwaukee to Chicago that was sponsored by the Chicago Herald Times. There was a $5,000 pot. It was very prestigious. As the culture grew and as technology advanced, newspaper coverage of anything automotive related would kind of be obsolete. Next up, we have magazines. The automotive magazine originated in the 40s and 50s after post-war motorsport really blossomed and after the demand for a sports car because of motorsport became very high. Magazines really gained a foothold as one of the most significant ways to cover anything automotive. Some to this day still maintain hundreds of thousands of subscribers. And the more conventional ones usually included performance reviews, single pieces on cars from factory, interaction with readers, other things like that. Here I've included 6 that I feel are influential to me and others who are like-minded. Here we have 3 more conventional automotive magazines, Car and Driver, Motor Trend, and Road and Track. These guys do more factory reviews on brand new performance cars, other cars like that. Interactive pieces, reviews of tracks, other stuff like that. And then here we have 3 more specialty magazines based on the domestic and import modified scene. We have Modified, which I was an avid reader of. We have Super Street, and we have Eurotuner. Like I said, these guys would do more single car features. They would do more interaction with readers. They do readers' rides features. They do brand reviews, parts features, things like that. Next up, we have the automotive blog. As time passed, technology really advanced. Because the internet was a little bit more easier to access, blogs kind of surpassed the magazine. There are far too many that I can really talk about, so I'll feature one very high quality one that I read personally, which would be Speed Hunters. These guys started in 2008, and they essentially have been doing like single car features, reviews on shops, events, shows, a little bit of motorsport here and there. These guys, the contributors, they live around the world. It's global. They are very high class photographers, and that's a big focus of this blog. As we can see here, we have some good examples. We have a feature of 3 different BMWs here from one of their guys, Mark. We have a photo from the Nürburgring 24-hour race feature, which is an endurance race. We have a photo from a large show. We have a photo from one of the staff's own project cars, an early Nissan Skyline from the 1970s. We have a shop review. This is Freed Engineering. And we have a single car review, the Nissan 180SX, built by a shop in Japan. Next up, we have television. Before on-demand streaming, this was a lot more prominent. For a while there, it was mostly just motorsport coverage until shows like Top Gear and Roadkill really came on the scene and changed that perspective. These guys would do car reviews, they would do challenges, builds, comedy, gags, other stuff like that. They really gained a cult following, especially for the hosts and their chemistry. that's what really made it work. Then movies. This is one of my absolute favorite pieces of media when it comes to car culture. Movies and cars really do go hand in hand. Certain cars have definitely gained a lot of notoriety because of certain movies. A good example of this would be a lot of the imports. Early imports from Japan and Europe gained notoriety because of the first Fast and the Furious. That movie has been cited as one of the biggest reasons that car culture really grew in the United States. So before that movie was released, it was really niche and not really many people knew about it. And then this movie comes along. It's full of these imports that have been extensively modified, and people start seeing this. They start wanting to join. Other good examples would be Grand Prix from 1966. This follows 4 Formula One drivers, and it shows a lot of 60s era Formula One cars. We have Two Lane Blacktop, which is based on the lives of 2 guys who essentially drift around the country, winning street races and other stuff like that in their 55 Chevy 150 modified as a gasser. It's a very simple, very brutal way of modifying a car for drag racing. Then we have 2 movies which are very well known for their getaway cars. Ronin with the Audi S8 they use. There's a good piece of dialogue in there when they're choosing that car. And then Baby Driver with the opening scene where they use a Subaru WRX to escape the cops after they robbed a bank. And then lastly, another good motorsport movie would be Ford versus Ferrari. This details the aftermath of when Henry Ford II attempted to buy out Ferrari to create their own motorsport division, and what happened when Ferrari said no. They essentially formed a motorsport division when Henry Ford II wrote a blank check. Him, Carroll Shelby, and Ken Miles created a car called the Ford GT40, which would go to win Le Mans, the world's most prestigious endurance race, which Ferrari was a big competitor at 4 years in a row, back to back. Then lastly, the reason I presented on this topic is because I have a personal connection. I've been a part of the local and regional scene for pretty much my whole life. I've been shooting local shows and shows around the country for 6 or 7 years now. For this reason, I just wanted to show a sample of my own personal work. Here are 2 shots I took at a big show in Vegas called Stance Wars. Now, this show is more focused on ride height, clean aesthetics, and other very small details like that, other than like power mods and things like that. I enjoy everything. This is a little niche of what I enjoy. And then here are 2 shots from a local show called Elite Tuner. Me and some friends had cars featured in that. Here we have 2 decent shots here. And then 2 more from Elite Tuner. It really showcases the scene. It's one of my favorite parts of the entire show. Thanks for listening. Any questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So you were mentioning movies and how popular cars were in movies. Were there any car sales, like of specific cars, that spiked after certain movies?
So not necessarily after movies, but one big sales spike that could be attributed to media and marketing would be sports cars being sold because of wins at motorsport, like the AC Cobra and other Ferraris and Maseratis being sold as, a race car for the streets. This really put people onto it. They really like this. They like to drive cars that won races.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Did the newspapers back in like the early 20th century, did they have a similar effect on the sales of cars as certain movies and motorsports would?
No.
No.
Not by any means. Like, newspapers would really just be motorsport coverage, and that's honestly about it. I mean, if companies had their own marketing in the newspaper, maybe that would help, but certain newspapers, not really.
All right.
Is that it?
I believe so.
Okay, thank you very much.